Hey, this time in the Quick Speed Shop. Do you ever want to patch a door on an old truck? Well, they make all kinds of patch panels, AMD does, and I bought some AMD panels to fix these 67 to 72 Chevy doors, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it right now. It's not too bad, and it's pretty inexpensive. So you got a grinder and a welder, you can do it too. Look at that snow out there. It's about 19 degrees, that's F, for freaking cold. So I got the passenger door on here, and it's fitting pretty good on the bottom and the back edge. It's a little tighter. This door is a little wonkier than the driver's door. The skin is weird. If I see a line here, it's kind of rolled out. It doesn't fit the cab real good, the back of the cab on this side. It fits pretty good down here to the body line, but then this body line on this repop cab panel sticks out a little bit here, but then it sucks in here and the door is out and then it's out here. And I made a mistake of fitting the door without the rubber in it, so I had to put the latch on. If you try to fit these doors in these trucks without having a striker plate on, the gasket is so thick it pushes the doorway out, and I was panicking off camera because the door was out like 1/4 of an inch. But when you put the latch on and shut the door, it sucks it in, obviously. But this side, I'm going to hang the door on the other side of the truck in a minute here again. But this side, I've got a lot of fitment issues, and I'm not sure how far I want to go with it. This body line here could go in a little bit. I might try saw cut the edge and just tap it in, but then it's going to be like in, and I don't know. I might leave it, because if you look down it, once it's painted, it's not going to stick out that much, and we're not building like a Dave Can Dig It Bitch and Rides show car here. This is just going to be a driver. I might try to take a piece of wood and a hammer and roll the edge of the door in, because I can see in the paint, it's like the door edge is rolled out here, and I can feel it. So we're going to try that first. This cab panel has got just a little deformation in it here from, I don't know if welding it or just how it's made. And then up here, the door is hanging out a little bit here, but I don't think I'm going to do anything about that, because I don't want to fill the brand new metal panels on this truck full of body filler to make perfect show car gaps. Because bottom line, it's going to be a driver for me, and I don't want to spend 6 years doing body work to make a truck that I just pieced together out of multiple trucks that's going to sit in the driveway and just get driven every day as a work truck, or like a cool truck, but I'm not building a show truck. I'm building a nice driver. So if the door fits probably as good or as better as it did from the factory. The gaps are tightened up all the way around. It opens and closes. Right now it's super loud because I took the glass out, so that stuff's rattling in it, but it closes, goes on a safety latch, and then it don't take much to close it. It just sounds like it does because it's loud, obviously, but it don't take much to close it there. Like I said, this rubber is super thick, but that's the trick. You got to have the rubber in it when you're fitting these doors, which I made a mistake of not doing in the first place, and I panicked. But these strikers are weird. They kind of hook down here on there, and it's got some adjustment. I got it dialed in. There's a rubber bumper that goes here that's missing, but this rubber's, see how thick it is? It hangs on, you glue it on. Obviously, I've just got it taped on here for now to use it, but it will get glued onto the seam eventually. I'll probably reuse these because I think they're either original or they've been changed, and they're in pretty decent shape. They're a little dirty from the rust on the doors, but they seal on this surface here. And later in the video, we're going to take the doors off and start cutting the bottom off and fixing them, but I just wanted to get this fitted. So let's take a 4x4 and that hammer and try to roll the edge of this door around a little bit. Don't try this at home. Got to be a professional. Of course, I can't even get in here to work on it, but let's try to, without wrecking everything, let's try to roll this in a little bit, make it match just a little bit better. Oh, it's actually working. It is actually working. Oh, now the door needs some filler work because I just wrinkled it. Dang it. That was a mistake, but that sucked it in quite a bit. Sucked it in. Yep, we'll have to do just a touch of filler work there. There's a crack in it now. I don't know if the latch, does the latch hit back there? No, not really. But the edge was rolled out, and now it's not. Using wood for body work. Well, now let me come over here, and I want to see if I can, I doubt I can tap this body line in at all because it's right on the hard point and it's welded pretty good. Just take a little love tap. Yeah, it's not going to move at all. Not going to move at all. So we'll probably live with that. Unless I want to feel like I need to get the grinder out and cut into it, slice and try to roll it in, but I don't think so. The door edge is sucked in a lot better. Like I said, we just cracked the paint a little bit, and I'm going to DA all the paint off these doors, get them down to bare metal, and then rework it. But that sucked that in enough where your eye is not going to see it as much. I'm not going to worry about up here because there's a lot going on with the body lines and the door handle. Your eye isn't really going to be drawn to here, but on the big flat part of it, it is. And if you were doing, like I said, a show car, you would put body filler over all this, like skin it from here all the way back across the doors, and then you would take your sanding block and you would sand it like this, you know, and you would block these out perfectly to each other. We're not going to do that, but just a little tapping on that door, suck that right in. It's out like, it's flush here, it's out like a 1/16 of an inch, and then it rolls up to a little bit more here. But I'll tell you what, that's pretty decent. Pretty decent. Once this is painted one color, it'll kind of disappear. We're gonna get two-tone this truck. It's gonna a cream color down here. So down here, it's also gonna break it up. So you'll probably lose some of the mix match of this body panel. Like I said, I don't want to cut that. It's out just a hair. That's fine. But that's good. I wanted to do that before I took the door back off to finish welding the rocker panel, but I like that little hammering work. And I could even take a set of pliers and try to roll the edge here, but I think once I sand it, knock it down a little bit, it'll be fine. So fix that ish. Still needs a touch more in the middle. Let me give it just a hair more. Just a hair more. I'll try get right on the edge, maybe. Ooh. That's pretty close. Actually, right here, it's low. The cab corner is low right there. I can see it on my eyeballs, but That's not bad. That's pretty close. That's close enough for government work. Little body work with a 4x4 and a big hammer. Oh yeah, that's 1,000 times better. And once you DA that, I have to skim it with just a tiny little bit of filler. Boom, perfect. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Come over here. You see that now? I can see the door edge all the way down. It hangs out just a touch here, but that's going to be fine. You see here where I just wrinkled it just a little bit. I'll hammer and dolly that, knock that little high spot down. This is a little wrinkly, or not wrinkly, but you know, you can see the edge here, then it kind of sucks in, then there's a high spot here. That all DA down and get blocked out in a little skim coat of filler. But I feel a lot better about that. Yeah, this piece is a little wonky here. I could skim this with filler, just, you know, smooth the whole thing out like that. That's pretty, whoa, that looks pretty good now. All right, I'm gonna pop this door off. I took a pencil and I drew on the cab corners, or on the, so I took a pencil and I drew above here a little bit, give myself some reference marks. So when I hang the doors again, I can easily see where the hinges gotta go. But I wanna knock this guy off. I gotta finish welding the rocker. And then we're gonna set these doors up on probably make a table out of the back of the frame. And we're going to start putting the door bottoms in. All right, I made a little workbench surface here on the back of the truck with some cardboard and a blanket. And we got the door up on here, and we got the door bottom. Now these I bought from AMD, and they're made by oh no, this one is actual AMD. Right there. Actual AMD. Made in Taiwan. Now unlike the Mopar parts they make that are like perfect, these are a little off, not real bad, but actually they're only $35 a piece, so I can't complain for the price. And mostly it is in here, the details are off a little bit, but we're not going up this far, and it's close, but it's not going to be perfect, but it is what it is. So I think what I want to do is make my weld seam in the center of this raised portion where I can like butt it up and weld it and grind it, and it's right at the bottom of the door, right where the rubber is. It'd be a heck of a lot easier to do that than try body work on this. Well, I mean, you could body work on a flat surface, obviously, but you know, you get a chance of warping and stuff like that on this raised surface. It's got a little bit more structure to it. It's not going to warp as easy as this flat sheet metal, and the door shouldn't be rusted way up in here. It's only rusted down here where the rubber gasket, the weather seal goes. That's why this is rusted here. And then obviously the bottom. So how I want to get this off is, first I'm going to replace the outer seam, the outer skin way up here by the body line. So I'm going to pick a spot back here. I'm going to cut the skin for now, and I'm going to grind it just with the grinder, grind the edge off all the way around, and then that'll free the skin from the outside of the inner piece. And then I'm just going to make a rough cut. Let me think about this. Do I want to make a rough cut, or do I want to cut this one and lay it over? Well, if we just grind the skin away, that'll give me a datum line to line this up with where I want to be. And then we're going to have to lay this over. I'm going to pre-cut this like higher, cut this line low. I'm sorry. Yeah, cut this line lower, then cut this line higher so I got an overlap, and then I can lay them together, then scribe where I actually want to cut it for the butt weld. That'll be the plan. Where I got to be kind of careful is where I want to cut it off here on the side. Don't want to cut it too low. So if I get the grinder, we can take the seam off. Where is it? Right here. Where's the battery? Gone. Muffling things. So what we're going to do is just, without setting this blanket on fire, and I'm going to grind from right here. Just going to grind through the skin. And I'll know when it's good because if I had a little screwdriver I could show you, or something to pry under it with. We'll chisel. It'll start to separate on its own. Yeah. And I can just take it and go down, actually get right in there with the, because, okay, see that? Because this should be just rolled over. This has got some body filler on it, but there we go. So this is all body filler here because this is rusted, but you just grind the edge off and take the outer skin right off all the way around loose, and then we can zing this off. So let me grind it real fast, and then we'll come up in here and we'll cut it. Where do we gotta go? Leave this kind of low. I see some rust here. We'll cut her low for first. I'm going to leave it lower. Just kind of make a random damn line there. Yoink. There we go. So now we can cut that right off. And then in this one we'll cut higher. And yeah, even the rubber, even the surface where the seal goes is like, I don't know, 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch tall here. It's only about a 1/2 inch here. These are not stamped the best, but they're going to be okay. It's just for the rubber seal to seal on. And the bottom of this door is all junk. It's got a piece of angle iron welded in here. It's nothing but holes and filler. So we'll put a brand new bottom on her and a brand new skin on the outside. All right, I got the skin all separated here, and it's nasty. Nasty, nasty. So where is my, aha? If I had my hearing protection, because I don't want to go deaf. What? It's over here. Got it. Let's, what in, here we go. I've got the technology to cut this right here. So let's just do this. Yep. Now I cut through the skin here because I'm going to replace the skin way up past this, so it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. Where is the window? Oh, right there it is. Uh-oh. Oh boy. Ooh, there's a brace. Uh-oh. Some kind of brace action. Oh, here's the plate for the mirror. Holy cow. Ow. Ow. Now look at that. Somebody had jammed some metal up under there trying to fix it before. which made it terrible. And got a ton of body fill. Yikes. Mud. So that's why one of the reasons why they rust right there is this guy. So our skin is going to get cut off, like I said, way up to the body line, which is going to remove about the bottom 10 inches of it. So all this will go away. We'll clean this up. We'll wire wheel this and grind it and clean it up. Get some weld through primer on that. And then do I have somewhere in here we're going to tie in? Oh, there's still filler there. Shoot. But like I said, I want to leave this outer skin on because that's going to show me where to locate the bottom of this. And if there's any that needs to get trimmed off of, I don't want to make the door longer. So when I go to put it back on the truck with the outer skin on it, it won't fit. What we should actually do is put it back on with the new inner bottom on it with the outer skin removed, and then use the grinder and grind this edge off if we need to raise it up at all for to make it fit the rocker panel. But ouch, that's sharp. But we got her down to where we got to be here. Like I said, we're going to overlay it here. I'm going to trim this back. Let me trim this down real fast up here on the high. Then we'll overlay them, and we'll mark this and make a more accurate cut along this line and do all our welding on here where it is strong, the strongest portion of this, so avoid warping this big flat panel. All right, I trimmed my bottom panel here, and I've already gone ahead and tried to get close on this corner edge because I can't, it's hard to slip it over both ways. Obviously, it's meant the butt weld did not slip over, so I had to sneak up on it here, so I just did that real fast off camera. I cut this side about to where it's got to be, and now I'm trying to figure out what to do on the other end where you guys can see. And I've got it cut right now way up into the hinge area, which is probably spot welded to that bracket, I'm going to imagine, but I don't need to go all the way up into there. So I'm going to cut this down again, but I do have a little bit of rust right about there. So if I could take probably an inch or so, where's the rust go to? Right about there. And you want to sneak up on it here, so that's what I'm doing. I'm sneaking up on it by trimming a little at a time. Let's put it there. And it looks like it's going to be good fit-wise. Like I said, the important thing was to leave the outer skin on so you can hang it over. I don't know if you can tell over there. See a little bit of rust hanging through. I've just got it kind of in place. So it's going to be close, and I'll line it up there before we make our final cuts. But it will go like there for the butt weld, and I've got just a touch of skin hanging out past it. So it's going to be good height. And once I get that side trimmed in, then we can mark it here up on this upper piece, retrim this, and get our butt weld working and butt weld this on here. Another thing I noticed is there's no weeps in the bottom of this panel. The original one had like part of the lip would be missing or bumped up, and there'd be a hole here. So probably the best way to do that, to put a weep in the bottom of it, instead of cutting this surface away, I might just drill a couple holes like to make an oval and then cut it with the grinder. So put some slots up in this edge, and then water would run here and run out the side. I'm going to try to, when we put this on, it's going to be glued on this surface. We're going to glue it with the panel bond adhesive. So it should seal this gap up where nothing will come out. So the water will hit the glue and then run out, kind of lay in here and run out the holes. And I'm going to try to spray some paint down in here on top of this. And then if I could get my arm in here, which is going to be probably a trick, I probably won't be able to get it all the way. I would like to put some kind of sealer on the edge so the water wouldn't get down in the seam. But I think the glue is going to do mostly that. And then I'm also going to, whenever the truck is finally painted, I'll take and I'll spray some fluid film in the bottom of the doors, just get the seam to get coated up for rust protection. So that'll probably be, it'll be probably fine. This truck isn't going to get driven in the winter, obviously. And the amount of moisture it gets, if I can blow a lot of paint in there and stuff and just paint it up. They had primed the inside of these doors. There's like green primer, or I don't know, maybe they dipped them. I'm not even sure. The amount of primer that's in here, they probably did dip them, I would imagine. But obviously when they were put together originally, they were bare metal here, so there wasn't any rust protection at all. And when we glue the panels together, we're going to have all that panel bond adhesive as our pretty much our rust protection. It'll be all glue. There won't be any bare metal there, so it's going to be better than it was. And not for nothing, it lasted over let's see, what year is it now? 30. Yeah, it lasted 50 plus years. These doors lasted with the amount of rust on them here. So that's going to outlive me, because I don't know if I got another 50 left in me. Maybe. But at that point, I'll be too old to care. Okay, I got the piece trimmed up here pretty good. I've got it fitting. It doesn't fit the best because the detail, like I said, isn't the best on it, but I think I've got it up close to where I want to trim to do the butt weld. And I'm going to have to get it tacked in and then work it, but I've got it so the skin is visible out the bottom when I put it on here. So I've marked this piece where I got to cut it. I got to cut on the bottom side of the line, tight to the line, and that should give us a good butt weld. A little bit of gap, let the welder burn in there. I think we're going to be okay. We got most of the rust cut out here on the skin, or all the inner rust cut out for where we got to replace it. So only used this much of it, but it was only rusted down here on this bottom section. So we're good there. So I'll cut this off right quick, and then we'll clean it up and get it in here and see where it's got to go. And like I said, the skin I'm replacing way up into here, right below this body line here. So I've still got a couple inches of the original skin, or the original inner, and then the skin joint is going to be up here over the top of it. So it's going to have staggered joints, but it is looks like it's going to work out okay for what we're doing here. Okay, I got it trimmed up really fitting good here. It's hard to see without having two hands to hold it, but the gap is really tight. A nice butt weld all along there. It's got a lot of problems because the stamping's not the best here. And here you can see this is just kind of like bleh, mushes around there. So I'm going to have to weld it up and then slice and dice this. Like, luckily it's on the bottom. Obviously that's why I did this as low as possible, because I knew this was deformed quite a bit. And the rubber seal goes on here, so you're not really going to see it once I slice and dice and make it work. And on the back of the door here, it's a little bit better, so we'll work on that. But it fits here with the seam. You can see the door skin hanging out just a little bit. And in the front, same thing. When I get it up here, it hangs out just a little bit. So I know I'm not too long. I'm actually long on the front edge here. You can see where the door skin stops down below there in that hole. I've actually got to bzz off a little bit of that once we get it welded in. But it will come up here and butt weld in here pretty good. I added those drain holes I was talking about. I just took my spot weld or my Rotobit cutter and cut 2 circles, then cut it with the cutoff wheel in between. I mean, they're pretty big for drainage holes, but I'd rather have, not have crap get stuck in the doors. And like I said, once we glue it all together, glue this here and roll the edge and glue it and stuff, hopefully the glue will smush up through and fill all this internal seam up in there. And then I'll force any moisture to run out. But like 2 drains is good. I think it had maybe 3 smaller ones, and stuff would get caught in them. These are big enough where any debris, like leaves or whatever, that gets through the window hole into the door can deteriorate and wash out of here. No problem. I can get my fluid film gun up in here and shoot fluid film up in the bottom of the door hole. Or actually, I've got a hole here too with a factory plug. So plenty of drainage there. I drilled 2 spot weld holes for that window bracket. So once we get that in, I'm not going to spot weld it until I cut the outer skin off. Then I can hold it up and clamp it, and it'll plug weld that in. I mean, not spot weld, we'll plug weld it, plug weld that, get that tied back in. But it looks like it's going to work out pretty good. This is only, actually, I spent all day monkeying around with stuff on the bottom of the cab, and this has turned out to be not too big of a job here. It's coming out pretty decent, and once we start welding it, I think it's going to look good, and then all that weld will disappear into this body line, and we'll have a brand new door bottom. Okay, it's the next day here out in the shop. I actually spent all day inside working in my house. I'm not going to say that my house doesn't look like my shop, but it kind of does. It's a little bit of hoarded out mess of car parts and trinkets and antiques, so I spent most of the day, since it's like 7 degrees outside, reorganizing my back living room. Took all the stuff that was in a big huddle and built shelves and put everything away, kind of, so that kind of turned out good. So I'm getting a late start out here, but we got the heat kicking. I actually just came out and just put a couple of tacks in this bottom piece. Now, it doesn't fit exactly everywhere. Like here you see the line is kind of bleh. It's like not really foreign the best, but for 35 bucks, what do you want? It's going to be good, and a little hammering. Well, the body hammer is going to get tied in. It's fitting real good on my butt welds here. I got it butted up. I just got to get a tiny little screwdriver and pick it up level, but it's buttoned up nice here. Up here in the front, where you're really not going to see it, it's kind of wonky. I'm just going to kind of mush all this together. I might do a couple of relief cuts and fold the metal in and just kind of blend it over. Is what it is. But we got okay, if you saw in the time lapse there, the fast motion, I got it, both sides of it welded all the way down here. I was able to use the hammer. Now it's a little deformed, but I just kind of mushed it around. And you won't see this because the door seal goes on here. And once I smooth this out and stuff, it'll just kind of blend in there and put a little bit of filler work on it. It'll be fine. It's fitting up really good here. I'm taking my time going across here because I don't want to warp this, even though it is on this body reveal. I don't want to warp the crap out of it. And this metal is pretty thin, probably like 20 gauge, and you can feel it going where all the welds are right now. So this side a little more beating and banging. I burned through, kind of had like a gap down here, got it welded to here and to the inner structure all in kind of one shot. Then when I got it, I kept welding on it, got it hot. I was able to deflect all this with the hammer here. Go and beat it down, kind of put this body line into it with the body hammer and rolled around. Obviously, this is in the front of the door where it's going to be like almost impossible to see it. So that's going to be good enough for what we're doing. Looks pretty good. This will grind up really nice. Like I said, the skin is a little wonky on this side. I got to trim about 1/4 of an inch of off here. But as you can see on my skin line up here, I'm right flush with it. I might just take just a touch off the bottom of this with the grinder, just because I might take just a touch off this with a grinder just to make it so I got room to put that skin on and not get the bottom gap too tight because I've already set up the rockers. Honestly, I should have done this beforehand, but you know, if you've watched the previous videos, I didn't really pay attention to how rusty the doors were until I had already put the rockers on, but it's fine. So this way is going to keep them right in line, and the new skin will roll right around. You know, I already ground like a 16th or 8th off just to get the skins to separate, so it should roll right back up on there, but I'll probably just hit it just a touch to take it back, give myself a little bit of wiggle room when I go to roll the skin around. But it's coming out good. I'm just going to take my time and slowly weld it all the way across here. This is why I was talking about on the front side. Imagine welding this seam all the way across on that skin in the flat of the door. It could really get away from me in a hurry. Like the best thing to do to actually do something like this with thin sheet metal and to keep the heat down and stuff is to have a TIG welder and TIG all this with like a butt joint, and you know, have a tight butt joint and TIG it. That would be the best thing, is you could keep the heat really low. You could add material as you wanted to. There's going to be a ton of grinding involved in this. But if you TIGged it and flowed it, you could make it nice. You could hammer the welds if you could get in there and stuff like that. But we're just out here making it in the garage like you guys do at home. Can do at home, same thing. Don't even need a fancy Miller welder. You can go to Harbor Freight and get yourself one of them Vulcan or whatever's, and you could do the same thing here. 110 welder would work perfect for this. Obviously this one is 240, but the 110 would work perfect for this. But it looks really good, and it's the right answer to have a brand new door bottom on these factory doors instead of just spending the money, you know, the $600 to buy new doors. I'm essentially fixing it, the inner bottom, for $35, and the skin is like $25. So $50 worth of parts and a little bit of work bring these original doors right back around. And obviously the only bad part was the bottom like 2 inches of it. So why throw away a good door when you can fix it? Obviously if these doors are all smashed and rusted out and stuff, then it would be a different story. But these doors are pretty nice shape, so I wanted to fix them and save myself some money. Well, I don't claim to be much of a metal guy, but check this out. Got it all ground down with the flap disc. I'll probably get the DA out with some 80 grit and DA this. Try to smooth it up and like metal finish it a little bit. It needs some filler. You can feel it. It's like from all the welding up and down. It's not warped, but you know, just grinding, it's not smooth. But you know, it's also at the bottom of the door where it's not going to do a whole lot of, you're not going to see it. But if I just skim coat the whole thing of filler and then just block this real fast with a sanding block, just to take some of that out of it after I hit it with the DA a little bit, it should clean up. Almost no filler. It's going to need a little bit of filler here on the side of the door just because the way that it is. The front, I probably won't use. I'll just get a smooth over the welds, and you know, you're not going to see any of this in the front because of the way the fender and the hinge and stuff, you won't see any of that. But it fits really good. It came in good. I was able to grind it all the way down and hammer and dolly it and work it around and get it so it pretty much transitions how it was originally. And it'll clean up and be good enough, but way, way better than rotted out door bottoms. So now, I think the next step is put it back on the truck, tweak this inner panel to flush with the edge of the rocker panel. You know, if this got to go in and out. Originally, when I had the doors on, with all this filler and stuff, the front edge of the door was pushed out because of the rust, and it hung over the rocker panel by like almost a 1/4 inch. So I'll be able to work this and get it to fit the rocker perfectly. And I ground it back here so it matches the door skin, the factory door skin all the way around. So we should be good there. So it should work out nice. Okay, hung the door back on the truck here. A tale of woe! Just like the other side, I got a stripped hole in the hinge now, so I'm gonna have to take it back off, cut this hinge plate open, just like I did on the driver's side, because the hinge plates on this truck were all stripped. Cut this open, cut the inner piece open, change the plate, and then weld. What did I do all the plates? Oh, I know where they are. And weld this back up. So now I got to do that to the other side. Great. But anyways, I got the door on here, and I had to play with the hinges a whole bunch because I had taken the lower one off, and luckily I had put a pencil mark on here and finally got it dialed in. but it fits pretty good. I took the dead blow hammer. The front of the skin was hanging out just a little bit past the rocker down here, like kind of like it was before. So I gave it some taps, and it's hard to see because the skin is loose, but it fits pretty good to the rocker now. So I'm happy with that. I think I'm going to work on it on the truck, cut the skin off. Let me think about this. Yeah. Cut the skin off and glue it on the truck. That way I can make sure the gap is good, and then I'll take it off and I'll roll the edge around. But it, so it looks good. The gap on the bottom looks like it's going to be good. And somehow the gap's tight back here, but you know, you saw couple we were beating on the door. Was that in this video? I rolled the edge of the door in just a little bit, and now it needs a little bit of filler because it's got couple little marks on it, but it's going to be fine. It's going to be out just a little bit up here, but it is what it is. It doesn't fit. These don't match very good. It is what it is, but it opens and closes fine with the gasket now. So, and down here, you can't even see that new skin. It'll be on the bottom of the door, so just a skim coat of filler, like I said, and give it a little paint action. Won't even be able to tell. In the front, it's all hidden away down there. Can't even tell when we open the door. Like all the way. It's all hidden down here behind the hinge. Like very little body work necessary. The only place you would see it is back here, so I'll do a little bit better job. Smooth this out, filler here. You know, clean this up when we roll it around, fill all this in. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of wrinkles in the door from factory from the stamping, but we'll just smooth this out, get rid of that weld seam. It's all down low. Oops. But successful lower door skin replace or lower inner door replacement there with the AMD panel. That's awesome. All right, before I went in tonight, I couldn't stop. Check it out. I got half the truck put together, or 3/4 of the truck put together. I threw the core support on, which is I bought at Carlisle at the Truck Nationals before we got thrown out. That's right, before we got thrown out, I bought the core support there. So I got a new core support, and I got the new mounts on that. I got this fender from my friend Ted, not old traveling Ted, my other friend Airstream Ted. He bought it out in Canfield. It looks like it's new old stock from Judge, and it's got all the same, exactly the same dimples and stuff as an original fender. So I think it's new old stock. It's got a little bit of damage on it here. It had a couple of dents that somebody tried hammering out here, and they wrinkled it up pretty good, but the rest of it is good. So it's going to need a little bit of filler work on the top edge here, but it's new old stock, so it should fit good. It fits pretty well. The gap is just a touch tight on the front. I need to ream the holes. Are pretty, I'll show you on this fender. The holes are pretty big, but they're not that big, so maybe it is aftermarket because they don't look like that. But I gotta open these up just a little bit. I like to slide the fender ahead just a hair more, and I gotta pick it up just a touch. So right now it's a touch low, but I can't adjust anymore without grinding the holes. But it fits the rocker real nice there, and we got a show car gap. It's a little tight, but the door opens, and actually it fits the door real nice, like all the way down. And with our skin here and stuff, I had to throw it on and take a look and see, but it looks like we're going to be right on the money, like fitment wise, all the way around. About a 3/16 gap front and rear on the doors, and the lines are going to line up pretty good for you know, for what we're doing, just junk in the garage here. So I'm happy with that. The core support, like I said, is brand new. I had it sitting on the chassis outside for like 2 months, so the EDP is started to go. UV started to get it. You can't leave these panels out in the sun. Like if you just bolt on a set of fenders and the EDB coat, or the EDM coat, or whatever it is, the sun eats it away. Like this is already chalky. Then eventually it'll just come right off, and you'll have rusty fenders again with your brand new fenders. So finally, we're starting to make this thing look like a truck. And you can see I'm getting excited about it now because I can't believe it. But you can see here, just as an aside here, this fender, the tight get, now obviously there's no engine in it or nothing, so the suspension is sacked all the way down right now. But say with the engine on it, it's going to sit about here. then we're going to lower this thing 4 inches. So the tire will be, this truck's going to go way down. It's going to go down like 5 in the back and like 4.5 in the front. So we're going to, and these are 31-inch tires. They're about 3 sizes too big. So the truck is going to be way closer to the ground when it gets done. So you're going to see even less of this because it's going to be so far to the ground anyways here. But I just had to bolt that fender on. I was curious. I'm like, I wonder, is everything all screwed up? I had to bolt it on, and now I'm happy. I just kind of like centered the core support in the center of the holes. They allowed adjustment. The cab I measured kitty corner to kitty corner when I bolted it down, so the cab is true to the frame, and obviously the frame has never been hit, or doesn't look like it's ever been hit or anything. So the core support's kind of where it's got to be. Obviously with the not having the other fender and the hood on, you know, it could have to shift side to side or up and down or whatever. But for now, everything looks pretty close just for me, you know, bolting it down with a couple of bolts and a clamp to hold the lower unit there together. But sometimes there's body shims that go in here, like when I crank this bolt in, and it sucked the fender in. But I don't think it wants to come out because this gap is nice here. So I'll just elongate them holes a little bit and get it to slide ahead just a touch and come up just a touch, and it should, like, it fits this door really nice. That's why I think this fender is a new old stock fender. I don't think it's aftermarket, but it fits better than back here. So that looks nice. This truck's going to be pretty sharp when it's done. Lowered blue with cream on the bottom, like slot mags. Well, just like my dad's truck. My dad's truck was super sharp. This truck's going to be super sharp. So now I'm going to go in because I'm starving. It's almost 9:30 at night. I got to go in and eat dinner and get ready to go to work tomorrow. But see you guys in a second. We'll cut the skin off. Okay, it's a day or two later here. It's the day after Christmas. And I've come back out to finish this video for you guys, which I actually been editing, and it's pretty long, but this is a lot of work here. So what I want to do is, since I got the fender on and it looks like it fits really well, so I want to get ready to cut the skin off this. Well, the door is on the truck. Oh, that was loud. So I got the skin here. What I think I want to do is, I've been talking about gluing this on with the panel bond adhesive across the upper piece here, and I was going to flange it. Well, I've had a couple of people comment that you'll see the glue in the flat surface like here, that due to the heating and cooling cycles, it'll shrink and thaw or move around. And he said, one of the guys commenters said he'd be able to see the seam on a long panel. So a couple people suggested just welding it all the way across close to the line. So what I think I'm going to do is that I don't want to have, I've used the glue on other stuff, but it was like between two panels on around edges and stuff like that. And I've never used it on big flat panels. I was just guesstimating that I could do it that way. But a couple people that have done this before chimed in and said, you know, you'll see the line. So I don't want to see the line in the door. So what we're going to do is do the air compressor trick with the compressed air. We'll weld and blow the air with weld, or blow the weld with air to cool it off once we start tacking the skin together. I'm still going to use the glue around the edges on the inside. I'll glue the skin on all the way around the edges here, but the actual joint up top will be welded. So what I want to do now, I guess, since that's the case, I want to cut this skin off about, I think I'm going to lay out a piece of masking tape, and we'll make it a tape width down from this line and cut it, and that'll give me this line to help hold it together. And then I'll hold it up on the door. We'll draw a line. Actually, I should grind the paint off this first. Then we'll draw a line, zip, and cut it below the line so we'll have a nice butt weld to put this on. Okay, I cut the door skin off. I used some automotive masking tape, which is like 5/8 of an inch, and so I cut it 5/8 below the line. Now on the door, you can see here I've got a line drawn more than 5/8 because I want to sneak up on this. So I held the skin up to the door like this, and you can see it won't fit because it can't wrap around the edges here because the existing skin is in the way. So what I want to do is notch it here with a cutoff wheel, notch into the skin, then cut it out of the way. Then I just want to cut the entire skin off down along the bottom, get it out of the way, take all this off, then we can slide the new skin up tight where it's got to be. It'll overlap to about here. You can hold it on tight, draw a line, then cut to the bottom of the second line. That should make the nice butt weld. So I've got the cutoff wheel over here. Give her a... Get that out of the way before I crush it. Just gonna take a little cut out of here like this. Let's take a little cut out of here like this. Well, look at that. We have removed the bottom of the door panel. Hey, look at all this pitting in here. This heavy pitting that's up there was because it was behind this brace here. But look at all this heavy pitting in the center of the door. This skin would come through and it would bubble, you know, just from, eventually this would keep rusting and you'd have holes through the center of the door up here. Which, oh, actually, it's already got, now I can see it in the light. Can you see in the light? There's already pinholes started. So, look at that. Now we can see the inner structure here. We can see the butt weld on the inner panel here, which will go before we put the skin on permanently. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grind all this, and I'm going to prime it, and then I'll probably put some seam sealer on it just to seal it up. But if I close the door now, we can, well, got all kinds of dust. We've got our gap down here, which we can address. Take the headphones off so I don't have to hear myself yelling. Got the gap down here, which we can address to the quarter panel if I want to pick it up at all. I see this is hanging over just a hair here, the brace for the window. I'm going to grind this back flush here, and I'm going to clean this up. Actually, look, it's still, I think, still bare metal right there from the factory. Clean that up, grind it all back here. We'll get it all seam sealed up here, but that's not looking too bad. You can see the bottom of the door fits right tight to the rocker. It's like all the way down. Pretty good. I got a little sword lock in the back here. I'm going to grind this back here, open this up just a little bit. And I also need to peel the original skin off. Oh, that'll come right off just like that. Is that welded? That might have a spot weld on it. I bet it does. Snap that off. I got to grind that a little bit, but right here, if you can see over here, this is wide and then it gets narrow, then it gets wide again. So I'm going to grind this, open that up so we got room for the weld to roll our edge around. This edge at the bottom is pretty tight actually. So let's get the, where is it, skin out. Let's get the skin, some skin in the game. I think if I lay on the floor, whoop, ah, boom. I can hold this up on here. It should fit in there now. Pretty good. I can eyeball my gap on the bottom, which I'm probably in the way of you guys, but I need to be to see. Yeah, it's not going to be too bad. We're right on the edge of fitting. It's being a little, well, you know what, because I never took the skin off the front, but there, that skin is going to go on like that. The gaps are pretty good. Now when I glue on here to glue the bottom of the door to this, I want to put some panel bond adhesive and glue that together. You really should have bare metal to bare metal for the panel bond adhesive. So I will lose the EDP coating off this, but hopefully the panel bond adhesive will squish and fill up and coat it with panel bond adhesive. And then once we get it all welded on, I'm going to go through the hole of the door and I'm going to blow a whole bunch of spray paint or spray primer, probably paint, really, really wet on the seam and just let it sink into the seam and coat that seam anywhere where there, could be a little void, and get some paint in there where I can mix up a little epoxy primer and try to pour it in there with a little cup and run it back and forth. But I want to get a good seal on there. But I think it's going to be good. These doors were in bare metal when they put them together originally, and then I think they dipped them in this like green primer. But anything that was put together bare, like these seams, the primer would have had a really hard time getting in there. So that's why they'd sit and rust away. But you can see my big drains I've cut in the hole. Any moisture that's getting here should come up against the seam, but it should have an easy way to get out through these two big holes. You always want to have drainage. And then finally, the final step, once the truck is completely painted and put together all the way, I'll take some fluid film and I'll shoot fluid film inside the door and let it lay in the seam. And this thing will be completely rust proofed by the time we get done doing all the monkeying around with it that we're going to do. But it's going to be 1,000 times better than it was just a little while ago. I've primed the inside of the door, but right now I've got the skin on here and I've trimmed back the edges of it so I can get it to fit where it's got to fit. I also ground the paint off where we're going to be doing our weld seam. And if you can get down here, you can see on the bottom, the gap is really nice. The rocker panel's got just a tiny little suck down in it here, like where the door pivots. But other than that, it's pretty good all the way across. It's got a little bit wider gap on the bottom than it does on the sides here, but that's okay. I'd rather not have it rub on the rockers if I don't have to. And I took and I ground just touch off the bottom of the panel and I suck the skin up to make sure when I get it on here that it's not down too far, because it's always better to have a little bit wider gap than too tight of a gap that could knock the paint off and stuff like that. So it looks like it's pretty good across the bottom here. It kind of, if I hold it in here like this, it makes a good gap all the way across. If you can visualize that, it's hard to see probably with the dark and the black, but the gap is pretty nice. So what I want to do now is mark it where I got to cut it. I'm just going to hold it in place. I've got this clamp on the front. I'm going to take my smaller marker. Where is it? Come here, give it to me. And we're just going to draw kind of right where we got to be. And that's going to be right where I got to cut it right on the, oops, I just chiseled my tip. That's what she said. There we go. Now we can cut right across the bottom of that line. Oops, when I hold this up here tighter, I kind of drew under it. Dang. I guess you could just rattle can some paint on here too, make an exact line, but there we go. I got that there. I can see how much I got to cut off here. I'll just cut right on the bottom of the line, and that way I'll leave myself just a little bit of material I can hit the panel of the grinder if I got to sneak up on it. But you can also see in here where I primed I ground it down with the little air sander here. I got in there and just took the high spots off the welds all the way around. Doesn't have to be perfect. And when it dries, I'm going to take seam sealer here and I'm going to seam seal all that. And then I'm probably just going to rattle can some black paint when the seam sealer dries. Just paint this black in here, some black, flat black paint, so it will be coated with paint. And I also adjusted my strategy for using the panel bond adhesive. I'm just going to do certain spots because when you roll the skin around, the skin holds the door panel on, and I'm going to put some glue under the skin. So instead of coating the whole thing, I'm just going to glue down here, glue the corners, and then these bare spots, I'm going to just put panel bond adhesive, just like 6 or 7 globs. That way this in the middle here, this will stay, I don't have to knock the paint off of this EDP here, and it'll have protection between there. We'll just have little bare spots, and that'll glue it, and then when we roll the edge of the door panel around, it'll sandwich it tight and hold it together, and we should be fine. I believe from the factory they just take it loose and hammer it around. They might put a tiny little spot weld here and there just to hold it before they rolled over, and they might have put a little bit of goo between them, but I don't think so. I think it was just bare metal there. But we're gonna have to wrap this video up pretty soon because I got to get it out for you guys, and it's getting extremely long because I edited part of it and it was extremely long before I got into doing all this. But I'm just gonna go zing this off with a cutter real fast. I'll probably go to Harbor Freight. They have like panel bond adhesive, or what am I trying to say? Butt weld clamps, that's what I want to say, that slip through, and they're like a clamp with a T-bar that can go, they're 40 thousandths, and they go through a panel and hold it. I think I could reach down in here. Where's the hole in the door? It's gonna be tight. I could probably get like 1 or 2 in here by reaching inside because you got to put the clamp on the inside. I probably can't get one up in the front here unless there's a hole, which I don't feel one anywhere near. But we can use them panel clamps, at least here, to help hold this flush while tacking it. Then I can use a screwdriver and hold it here and hold it where it's got to be. There's also a little tiny bit of undercoating on the back side of this, I feel, up where the cut line's going to be. So I'll take the cutter or file and I'll clean the back edge of that off before we weld so it doesn't goo down into the weld when we butt weld it. But we are very close to making this happen, at least probably for this video. At least just get it glued and tacked and you'll get the idea. Then I'll hammer it around probably off camera because it's going to take me another day or so of monkeying around, probably get this fitted all the way. Okay, I cut the skin off and I got the lower skin just very lightly clamped on here, but I've got a good butt weld. You see right now there's a gap, but it's just because the clamp is just tweaking it just a hair. But if I take this and push it into place, I get a really nice butt weld. It's got a few thousandths gap between. It's not overlapping anywhere. It's not running into it anywhere. I went and I hit it with the grinder a bunch of times, took a little bit off. There's a pretty tight gap. Back here is a little bit more of a gap, but that's where I think I want to try to get them sheet metal deals, at least get 1 or 2 in here and clamp this and hold it flush. But right now the thing's kind of like holding itself in place, so one little clamp in the front, and I got a couple of magnets here, but it is going to, without hardly any stress, go right up flush and be able to butt weld. The bottom is loose right now, so what I want to do is when I go to weld this, push this in, I'm going to tack it right here, and then I'm going to come over and push it in, put these clamps on over here, but push it in a couple spots and hold it flush with a piece of metal or whatever so I can get it perfectly lined up, tack it, and just kind of tack it all the way across. Obviously the glue would be in here just hanging out because I've got like the panel bond adhesive, you got like an hour and a half to work with it, so it would be in there just loose hanging out. And then once I got this tacked where the thing would go and be attached all the way across, then I can open the door while it's tacked, clamp the bottom of it, let the glue set up, and then once the glue is set up, the next day I could go, the glue would hold the skin together on the bottom. I could go and weld it all the way across, get it ready to go, and then take the door off once it's completely located and welded and put it upside down on the back of the truck and hammer the skin edges around and complete the installation. If I had a TIG welder, this would be where you could use a TIG welder because you could hold it perfectly. You could just put very little heat in it. You could flow it right together, add a little bit of rod, and it would be a really nice repair to do with a TIG welder. Fortunately, I never bought it. I have the ability of my 215 to get a TIG for steel, a DC TIG, which I should probably do probably in the next year here as a business expense, write it off. But I've never TIG welded before, so something like this, or probably the GTX Daytona clone, would be something to practice with, but this would be a really nice spot to be able to use TIG welding and put the skin together. It would be a low heat area that would be perfect. But we got the body line here. As long as I tack it real slow and use compressed air to blow it off and keep it cool, it should tack up and slowly weld it across and take my time grinding it. It should stay fairly straight. And then it's near the body line. This is going to be two-tone, so it's going to be Hawaiian blue to this body line. Then it's going to be cream on the bottom, like a frost beige creamish color, which is light color, and it will hide, you know, any irregularities if it gets a little away from me, which it shouldn't. But it's going to be easy to body work this from the solid line down, skin it. It should be easy to body work this out. So I guess we're going to do what we can do here and butter up on. Well, it's a couple days later. Let's get this thing wrapped up. Bam! Went to Harbor Freight and I bought these welding clamps. Where are they? They're like $7 here. Here's the Chicago Electric butt welding clamp set right there from Chicago Electric. 60545 if you need one from Harbor Freight. And what they are is a little clamp here that's got a wing nut and this 40 thousandths piece here that slips through the gap, and then you clamp the T-bar on the back side here. If I can loosen it up. Yeah. See, this T-bar slides up and down, so that goes on the back side of the panel. So I've got one right now holding the back of the skin here flush, and when it squeezes the T-bar, it pushes your panels flush, so they're flush here for a butt weld. And I can only use a couple because the hole in the door is like here to get my hand in there. I ground a little bit higher so I could get it slipped through, so I still have a tight gap for the rest of my panel. I'm going to slip another one of these clamps in here when I get ready to finally attach this. But the panel fits good. I went and seam sealed and painted the inside of the door. I'm going to pop this guy back off here and apply my glue to my spots around the edge here loosely, then clamp it back in. I'm going to clamp it here. I'm going to tack it here. I'm going to have these two clamps back here, and then I'm just going to tack it a few times along the way. And then I'm going to open the door all the way and clamp the bottom skin in to set the glue, and then just let it set for 24 hours on this side. So I've got to finish this video up with the door just tacked. It's been multiple days, and I need to get it out tonight, so I've got to edit it. It's going to be a long one. I'm sure you've seen already, but basically this is the final step to attach the skin, and then I'll just work my way along slowly with the welder, welding it every little bit, and I'll take some compressed air and blow it off to keep it cool so we don't warp it, and then it'll hammer the edge off. I'll probably just start another video off again working on the door once it sets up with the glue. Okay, successfully installed here. I've just got it tacked, every 1.5 inches or so. It feels good. I've got all the clamps on the glue on the bottom, and I'm just going to let this thing sit overnight and ride, and then I can continue. This is where I'll get the weld. When I weld it, I'll get the compressed air out and I'll tack it and I'll blow air on it, tack and blow air on it. I jumped around just attaching it like this, and I think I got it, didn't put a lot of heat in it, so it's good, it feels smooth. But as I weld on it more, I'm just going to tack and blow and tack and blow, and then get it welded all the way across the front, get it ground down smooth. I'll clean up the inside the best I can with a wire wheel, get some primer on it on the inside sleeve. When it's all welded, the door can come off the truck and I can flip it upside down on the blanket and take the hammer and dolly these edges of these flanges around. I'll clean any excess glue out. I'll probably put a little bit of glue or maybe seam sealer on in between the two pieces so they hammer together. I have probably glue and hammer it around all the way around real gently, fold the edges all under, and it should be good. There's going to be a little bit of body work required to straighten this out because we're going to hammer on the edge of the panels and then, you know, the weld seam. So there'll be a little bit of filler in the door. It shouldn't be hardly any more than a skim coat to get the grinding marks and take any small waves out of it. But if I take my time, it should work good. And this is going to be brand new door bottom, inner and outer, so it should be fine, sealed up, seam seal it, and coat it. And eventually, once the truck is painted, I'm going to spray fluid film inside the doors, and it'll seep down into the seams and should keep the thing. I mean, it lasted 50 years already. It should last another 50 with a brand new door bottom on it, especially with increased paint and seam sealer and fluid film and all that. So that's the passenger door. I've got to do the exact same thing in the driver's door. It's going to take me a long time, but this video has had it. It's a super long one, and you've seen the process. So I've got that driver's door right there to make up. I'll do that next. I'm going to flop it around, and then probably for you guys, the next thing you'll see is I got a New Year's Eve or New Year's Day video because it's come out New Year's Day. A little one for that I shot. It's a cold start video. It was cold a couple days ago. I shot it a couple days ago when it was colder out, but then it warmed up. We got an epic cold start video, all kinds of action. And we'll see you on New Year's Day with that one. And then probably we're going to do a unboxing video. Got some new tools here from Harbor Freight, a Bauer little sander and a McGraw dual action sander. We'll get that going. And then I should have the door done for this side by then. And we can move on to body work and primer and hopefully paint. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. You guys have a good New Year. We'll see you New Year's Day with a little cold start video action. And until then, keep working on something. And 2025 is coming up sooner rather than later. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.